So, I bet you're wondering if I've watched Edgerunners. Yes, I have. Please stop asking about it in the comments. Since that is where all this began, let's talk about it at least. Cyberpunk Edgerunners is incredible. I've watched it 4 times already, and I'm currently on my 5th. Definitely one of the better anime I've seen in the last few years. It's got a nice short length, just 10 episodes. It's extremely colorful and beautifully animated with lots of great angles and directions and shots that just tickle my brain in the right places. Great cast of characters, decent plot. I think that episodes 1 through 4 may be among my favorite comfort watch stuff out there. I just really enjoy getting sucked into this world with these characters and watching David's relationships develop as he learns the ropes to becoming an Edgerunner. It's a good time. And on this watch through, I'm really appreciating the attention to detail that the show has so that everything matches up with the game. It's perfect. Love the show, and that's probably the closest we'll ever get to another Locked in the Basement. Anyways. As mentioned prior, however, watching Edgerunners was the reason I started playing the game. Over the last while, I've been starting to gravitate a bit more towards cyberpunk media. Blade Runner and its sequel 2049, Johnny Mnemonic, which is another cyberpunk movie with Keanu Reeves if you haven't heard of it, and Just No's Welcome to the City of Oz album. I suppose it's just the inevitable next step from being a sci-fi fan, coming off of things like a newfound love for Dune, the ever-present influence Tron Legacy left on my sense of taste, and of course, my crippling Destiny addiction. But none of that was the driving factor behind wanting to play Cyberpunk 2077. No, the real reason was because I had one thing I wanted to do: beat the ever-living shit out of Adam Smasher for what he did to Rebecca. The repeating shot of her getting crushed, they did her a bit dirty, IMO. And naturally, because Rebecca was such a fun character, I vowed that I would shit down Adam's throat no matter what. So, I picked it up when it was on sale, and once I finally had a working PC again, it was at the top of my downloads list, with all the ads I've been getting for the new 2.0 update and Phantom Liberty. And you know what? I fucking love this game.
We'll never fade away! We'll never fade away! We'll never fade away! We'll never fade away!
I did not expect to get sucked into Cyberpunk this hard. And yet, here we are, 90 hours in 2 weeks. Admittedly, I bashed the game on release, just joining in on the collective hate train based on the state it had released in. I would like to retract all of that now with how much they seem to have improved it. I never played anything prior to 2.0, but I have to say, the game in its current form has been very impressive. There have been a handful of glitches or bugs here and there, but it's never been to the point of frustration or couldn't be handled by a simple save reload at the absolute worst. Otherwise, I love everything else this game has to offer, and I just want to rant about that today. So chip in, Samurai. It's Cyberpunk time. Let's start off with the gameplay. I felt right at home pretty quickly since it reminded me heavily of Destiny, though I know the Borderlands fans are screaming at me right now. It's just what I'm familiar with personally, so it's probably what I'll be comparing the game to the most, and is most likely the reason I got sucked in so hard. I also learned just how aggressive Destiny's aim assist is when playing Cyberpunk, because I found myself missing a lot more shots, which I honestly don't mind. It makes the gunplay feel just that smidge more realistic. And as for the guns themselves, I really like the designs. They do look like weapons from the future. Not too over the top most of the time, just seemingly the natural evolution of a weapon's form come 50 years from now. I also enjoyed that the 3 weapon slots weren't locked into specific weapon types. You could use any kind of weapon in any slot. So while it was fun running around most of the time with a katana, by the end game, it was way more practical for me to have a third gun on hand, and I'm happy I had the option. My personal favorites throughout my playthrough were the new revolver, Johnny's Malorian Arms 3516, Alex's Her Majesty,
Hey, what the hell?
the Arata Katana, the Mox Shotgun, and the Hawk Power Rifle. Most of these are iconic weapons, which is a rarity that indicates uniqueness. Basically a special trait or ability attached to that item, and that item only. But, as you may have guessed, Cyberpunk is about a lot more than just how good you can shoot. Cyberpunk has a completely overhauled progression system, and originally I thought I was just going to cosplay as David Martinez and go Sandevistan with a katana. But when I started playing the game, I decided to force myself into a different kind of gameplay style. Meet My V, the most stylish netrunner in all of NC. From humble beginnings as a street kid to cruising around NC with a brain full of Keanu Reeves and 9 little party tricks, I can take on any job you throw at me. What, don't like the fit? Oh, well I guess you and your chooms might catch a widow flu. Tell me to fuck off?
Fuck off or die. Your choice.
Think I'll raise your internal body temperature by about 500 degrees. Remember that thing Johnny Scrimblow says to you in your dreams?
Stick some iron in your mouth and pull the trigger.
I can make you do that. And yeah, sometimes I fight the NCPD just so I can get Max Tat called on me. Cause I like a challenge. Sorry, that was, cyber psychosis was creeping in again. Let me just take my normal pills. Oh, right. Where was I? Oh, right, plugging shit into my head. So I went for a quick hack build, which is kind of like the magic system equivalent of this game. You even got a mana system with RAM costs. While in scanner mode, you can interact with people or technology in new ways. You can use overheat to turn off the cooling fans in someone's pancreas, or short circuit an Amazon drone for an early Christmas present to yourself. Quick hacks proved to be a lot of fun once I started getting better and better cyberware to reduce costs, increase RAM regen, and make them do more damage. Just start a combat with a contagion and maybe an overheat or two, and then go in guns a-blazing. In general, good stuff. Sometimes I didn't even need to pull a Glock out though, just cue all my quick hacks and then hide behind a wall while the enemies fall over. It took me forever to figure out how to use mono wires, but they're a pretty cool melee tool as well. And the moment I got access to double jump with the appropriate leg cyberware, oh boy did navigating Night City get a whole lot easier. But it's not just about the implants. With 2.0, the perk system was reworked into this new tree system as far as I understand, and it is Nova. The available perks work together really nicely into crafting the kind of playstyle you want. Alongside the obvious intelligence route I took, I also focused on technical ability to up my cyberware game, and finally I spec'd into body to increase my max HP, so that during overdrive I can use more quick hacks by spending HP. God damn it, I went into Dark Knight again. So combining this really fun quick hack build with the great feeling gunplay and wide variety of weaponry available, and you have a formula for some really enticing gameplay. Now all you need to do is make the world and its presentation just as top tier. So the presentation fucking rocks. This one was gonna have personal bias going in. The game is just delectable to behold. Night City manages to perfectly walk the line between cool futuristic landscapes and underbelly grime. The lighting is gorgeous, the streets are busy. They do travel in herds. And there is an insane level of detail to the world that just makes it easy to slip into and lose yourself in. Same thing with Blade Runner. I just like to lose myself in these kinds of worlds, full immersion. It's how I found myself going for several hour sessions and not realizing just how long I'd spent in the game. In terms of the open world, Night City is pretty decently sized, and yet somehow it's not only easy to get around with both fast travel zones and an array of vehicles to choose from, but the loading times are incredibly minimal. Like, I was legitimately shocked by how quickly this game loads, and it only does it during a fast travel instance. Otherwise, I could drive around as long as I want, and I'm not going to hit a Skyrim loading wall. It's one of those small things that you don't really appreciate until you notice it in another game. It's also great just how well blended the cultures of Night City are. You've got so many different areas based on different kinds of people and histories, and it really adds to the flavor of this international city. The character and weapon models are also incredible. Everything in this game just looks so good. But it's not only the glimmer of Night City that draws me in so much. If you've watched any other review about a game I love, there tends to be one element that really sucks me in every time, and Cyberpunk 2077 was no different. The music. I was already a big fan of electronic music, and Cyberpunk absolutely delivered on that front for me. Every song is a banger, and there's a massive range to the soundtrack. It's not just dirty, glitchy combat tracks that make your heart rate climb faster than the bullets pumping out your iron, which is my favorite kind of EDM. The game has a whole other side of songs that, just like the city itself, come in a lot of different styles and genres, from rock and trance to reggae and pop. And they're lyrical too. Once more, you never really notice it because it blends in so well, but having these songs on the radio make the world of Cyberpunk feel all the more real. That said, I felt that deer in the headlights energy kick in the first time I heard "I really want to stay at your house playing game." Sadly, I couldn't destroy the radio out of grief, so I just had to run away with tears in my eyes. So I've praised everything I can without really spoiling anything, but now I want to get into the plot and the characters. So I'm going to offer you an out now if you want to experience this game on your own, because I want to go into depth about how much I love the plot. Alright, ready? 3, 2, 1, it's fucking incredible too. One thing that likely hasn't changed too much since the 2.0 update is the story, but god damn is it engaging. Like, I'm not kidding when I say this is an easy 9 out of 10 game for me. From the very beginning, this game managed to grab my attention by the scrote and didn't let go. It was gritty, it was wild, and I stayed enticed for the entire runtime of the game. That's not something that happens often. Sure, I get easily obsessed over something I enjoy, but even then there can be lull points. That never happened to me during my playthrough of Cyberpunk. No mission that had me sighing or groaning over it being boring, like, yeah, come on already, when's the important stuff gonna happen? Because everything felt like it was important. Nothing felt like filler, and everything meant something. There was always something new, something entertaining or challenging, and it just never let its foot off the pedal. I thought the main plot was very good. It wasn't mind-blowingly original, but how it was delivered and executed was Nova. I like how everything kind of webs off from the Konpeki Plaza heist, and you get these 5 or 6 different plot lines going on at once now, and depending on which ones you do, you can get different endings to the game. And you can do them in pretty much any order you want, and with the artificial time gaps between one questline's missions, you can go continue another questline and just keep the train a-going. It's great. I'll talk about the endings towards the end of the video, so please just bear with me for now. The side quests were wicked fun too. The Delamain taxi side quests were very silly and enjoyable. Those stand out in my mind. But there was also the Edgerunners mini quests for David's jacket and the hunt for Rebecca's shotgun. I spent a long time doing side quests though, and for a very specific reason. Which brings us to the reason for overinflating my level and doing so much side content wasn't only because I was enjoying myself, but it was also to wait. See, there was a specific mod I wanted to install, just one mod. But with 2.0's release, it naturally took some time for the mod devs to update it to be compatible. And I was a little worried about pushing too far and ruining my chances at certain events in the game. But luckily, CyberEngine Tweaks was quickly patched, and then I only used it to insert 3 lines of code into the console. I'm going to talk about the first one now, and then bring up the other 2 later because they aren't relevant. The main code I wanted to enter was to make Judy Alvarez romanceable as Male V. Yes, we finally get to the romance question. Look, Panam is still cool and all, I like her a lot, but something just struck a chord for me with Judy. I guess being one of the earliest characters you meet gave me the time to have her really grow on me, and her questline takes you through a form of hell and back emotionally. So after learning that she's only normally romanceable by a female V since she's canonically gay, I set out to make it possible to see her questline as male V. Felt a little bad about breaking character integrity there, but it was a great experience nonetheless. Also helps that CD Projekt Red recorded all voice lines for both genders and left them in the game, so I still had my gruff, sarcastic ass talking. Pyramid Song was a really nice climax quest for the relationship, and wait a minute, what's this footage doing here? Anyways, I think Judy is probably in my top 3 favorite characters. Also, Mox is a killer shotgun. Love this damn thing. Speaking of favorite characters, I think that's the aspect that sells the story more than the story itself. The cast and their performances are all handled so well, and I think that's what made me really get sucked in more than anything. I was invested in each person's plight because they felt like real people. Even V, I believe, was really well done. There's some lines where the emotions come out a bit wonky or corny, but if there's one thing that male V has mastered, it's sarcasm.
Who, me? Just told you, I'm Bill.
Thanks, Bill. Got that. No, I mean the dead fucking body on the table you somehow failed to mention to Stella.
We didn't kill him, okay? We swear.
Let's see. 2 blood-soaked dudes locked in a room with a gutted corpse. Yeah, real puzzler. Bet it'd take ages for a detective to unravel this one.
Johnny Silverhand is probably my favorite role I've seen Keanu Reeves in now, and I think it's a fantastic choice considering how he's been in such influential films for the genre. A lot of comedy comes from V's sarcasm and Johnny's dickishness, especially when they collide.
It was her, the lady in pink, breaker of hearts, framed by a halo of cigarette smoke. I followed her.
Dreaming of the day the narrator put a fucking plug in it.
The dame disappeared into the guts of a building ready to collapse. The air hung heavy with smog and betrayal.
Ugh, maybe it's a good thing I'm dying.
But they also have these really powerful, sincere moments too that tones out all of the crazy, over-the-top shit that this world has to offer and just focuses on the people for a moment. And that is when the game really sells them to you, makes your heart break and your eyes tear up. And I don't think any moment in Cyberpunk did this better than...
Fucking...
Okay, I'm not trying to be too exaggeratory here, but I sincerely mean this. I think this might be the best expansion I've ever played in a game. Yes, I'm talking about rivaling Heaven's Ward for me. Heaven's Ward! I loved Phantom Liberty. It was just immaculate from start to finish. I kind of screwed myself over when I tried to start it by fighting my way into Dogtown, but we eventually succeeded. Woohoo! I was not expecting a spy thriller to come out of this game, and I never thought it would be this good. But subvert my expectations again, I guess. I don't fucking care anymore. The settings, the plot, the music, fantastic. The set pieces were bigger and better. You know what? Fuck it. Going into spoilers now, so Phantom Liberty and base Cyberpunk spoilers for the rest of the vid, you've been warned. Opening mission, cool. Reminded me of the wall jumping puzzle from Wrath of the Machine in Destiny 1. But then that mission ends on almost getting flattened by a space jet, Songbird cutting out, seeing the jet crash in the distance, and then the Phantom Liberty logo pops up as you start Hole in the Sky. So good. The Chimera tank boss fight came out of absolute nowhere, and I love it. I have to rant about it. You start with a defense section against some tougher enemies, then the Chimera saves you before going rogue, then you get this wicked chase sequence that just keeps going and ramping up the pressure of the situation, and then when you think it's finally over, nope, the thing gets back up and you actually have to fight it, ending with this wonderfully cheesy finisher quote from V. Brings back memories of the first boss from Metal Gear Rising.
Give it a taste!
Rust and piss, shitbot!
It's such a great change of pace for boss fights, since there is nothing else in this game that I encountered that was even remotely close in terms of scale to this boss. The Chimera fight is easily one of my favorite moments in the whole game. I liked it so much, in fact, that I created a save slot at the start of its fight just so I can go back and redo the fight whenever I feel like it. I've reloaded that save 5 times since finishing the game. Actually, hold on. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm gonna go do it again. I'm serious. I'm taking a break from this. I'm taking a break from the script right now. 1 second.
Take cover!
Take drone! Don't let him press you up the fat one!
You die already.
V! You okay there?
Hang it in!
The sucker's gonna blow! Kill it now!
Rust and piss!
Alright, done. Make that 6 times now. Once again, though, while the story is good, it's the characters of Phantom Liberty that drive it home, and the extremely complicated threads between them all. Songbird, Reed, Myers, Alex, trying to figure out who to side with and who to turn on is a genuinely difficult task. I didn't want to turn on anyone. Well, except Myers. Fuck Myers. But with how strained their relationships were, there was no way to make everyone happy. So, in the end, I decided to let the bird go free instead of caging her up. I stuck with Songbird and Firestarter and continued on to the Killing Moon, which is probably in my top 3 favorite game missions of all time now. I know I'm making a lot of those claims in this vid, but believe me, there's good reason for it. The Killing Moon was everything I wanted out of Cyberpunk. It was gloomy, it was violent, it was epic, and it was emotionally satisfying, even if I came out of it feeling sad. Boiling it down to its main objective, just 2 people who are very close to death doing whatever it takes to save themselves, that really got to me over the course of the mission, especially on the train at the end. Like, it genuinely seemed like Song was going to just flatline at any point in this mission, and I was so worried for her. The endless rainstorm in a space aeroport brought me big City of Oz vibes, and if you don't know what that is, I did a whole video on it, so check that out if you're into cyberpunk and electronic music. The combat sequence before the train is also up there among my all-time favorites too, with the incredibly hard-hitting bass line while you literally just survive until the train arrives.
Let's do this.
Good luck, son.
And then ending it with another amazing set piece where you and Song link up and you get to harness the black wall to just fry anything that gets in your way. I have another save slot for this encounter too. And after all of that, after the reveal about the neural matrix, getting out of the train and encountering Reed, I still stuck to my guns. I took down Reed and sent Song to the moon. Even if she lied all this time, I still had time to find my own solution, just like she said. So I was just fine with letting her take the Matrix.
Happy trails. Of the vapor variety.
And then, when I didn't think it could get any better, they end the campaign with a literal James Bond-style credit sequence with a full song made in the style of the Bond openings. Like, what more could you ask for? Speaking of, all the little Bond references throughout PL were gold. Loved them all. Oh, and since I mentioned them earlier, those last 2 lines of code I entered, since I didn't go down the other path for the campaign, and also because I could only get one or the other even if I did, I added the Erebus SMG and Militech Canto Mark V operating system to my inventory so I could play around with the Blackwall. Very, very fun stuff. I tried taking Blackwall Gateway into the final boss of the main game, forgetting it's an insta-kill ability, not a damaging one, and it cranked the RAM cost up to 144. Oof. Oh yeah, speaking of, I think it's time we moved on to the finale. Now, Cyberpunk has a multitude of endings, and depending on which questlines you complete or decisions you make, you can get access to a few different ones. Now, I did not do every single ending Cyberpunk has to offer, mostly because I want to have more content to play after I get this video out, and I also just needed to stop playing so I could actually get the video done. I did do a few endings, and I'll discuss the others in a moment, but admittedly, there was one ending I was aware of and immediately wanted to do as my first ending. So with some help from my friends and some online guides, I made sure to give Johnny his last respects, and in return, he would give me an alternative ending. One where I wouldn't be forced to drag anyone else I cared about down with me. Just me, Johnny, some hot lead, and even hotter quick hacks against all of Arasaka.
You just discovered what it takes to become a legend. Grab your eye. Let's mobilize.
This is Don't Fear the Reaper. I've been saying throughout this video that a lot of things are some of the best I've ever experienced, and while that applies to this ending too, it was also one of the most challenging shooter experiences I've ever had. You're running solo against whatever Arasaka can throw at you. There's no manual saving. If you die, you go right to credits and get the suicide ending. You start the mission off by losing 25% of your max HP permanently, and then every few minutes, you lose another 1%. And it was fucking awesome. Hearing the rebel path blasting through my headphones as I punched my way to Mikoshi was exhilarating. And yet at the same time, I was paranoid as all hell about enemies spawning behind me because I did not want to lose. I even made sure that my loadout reflected my journey thus far. Johnny's revolver, Judy's shotgun, and the rifle from the best expansion I've ever played. And then, right at the end, he arrived. The cyber freak I'd started playing this whole game for. By the time I'd reached him, I had already lost about half of my HP, and I'm already on a squishy Netrunner build. Adam was way more relentless than I had anticipated. His damage was big, a lesson I learned all too quickly, especially from the rocket barrage. And the ad waves didn't help either. I was kiting for my life, trying to quick hack when I could and knock out vulnerabilities when I couldn't. It was tough, but enjoyable. I know that a lot of people just cheese this fight with Sam Devistan and some kind of melee or sword, but that wasn't what I was playing, so don't bring that shit here. Eventually, I did fall, but I think Adam forgot. If you want V dead, you gotta kill him twice. God bless autosave, and that was the only reload I had to do for the entire run of Don't Fear the Reaper. One death, and on Adam himself no less. Not too bad. Burn in hell, you corpo bootlicking motherfucker. And stay down. And then it was on to the ending. Now, personally, I think The Path of Glory is my favorite. It feels like the most accurate and realistic, true ending for V, because it's exactly where I'd see him going after it all, becoming a legend in Night City, taking on crazier and crazier jobs until his time runs out. Nothing is perfect, it's not entirely happy, but that's Cyberpunk for you. I did do 2 other endings though, so let's touch on them. I made sure to do the Aldecaldo's ending, and I think that it is probably the most good ending you can get. Getting accepted into the Aldecaldos was really sweet and a great culmination of all the time you spent with them up to this point. V's fine with the 6 months he has left, leaves the city with his new family, and moves on from everything, maybe even finding a way to extend his life in the process. And then there was the Arasaka ending. While it was really cool to have these samurai security guards helping me fight through the building for this very different ending, the end result was brutal. Where Is My Mind had some cool Blade Runner references in it, but fuck me was it bleak. Literally felt like purgatory. Nothing was right about it. But it's a nice contrast to the other endings, so it fits. Cyberpunk has become a fixation for me over the last little while, and I think it's exactly the kind of genre that some part of me has been wanting to dive into for a while now. And with how CD Projekt Red has not only improved and repaired, but expanded this game, I had no chance of resistance, and I pray that they continue to release more updates and expansions with time. In fact, I took so long to get this video finished that as I was putting it together, the brand new 2.1 update came out, and it looks even more incredible now. So you can bet I'm going to be playing even more Cyberpunk now. It's been a hot minute since something has encapsulated my attention so absolutely, and it feels really good. If you were burned by Cyberpunk 2077 on release, or debating on trying it out after hearing about how good 2.0 and Phantom Liberty have been, then add my word to the list of positive reviews. The game is freaking amazing. Play it. I'm definitely going to keep playing and get all the endings, and maybe try out some different builds with Sandevistan and Mantis Blades or Gorilla Arms. Who knows? The future is open for the taken, Samurai. So get out there and make it your own. Oh, and I suppose there's one final joking question some of you are probably asking. Which cock size did I go with? Well,